Welcome, city officials and department heads. Thank you for joining us for the first Form 700 filer information session offered before the April 1st, 2021 annual filing deadline. Before we begin today's session, we'd like to go over a few housekeeping items. Today's session is being recorded. Presentation slides and recording will be, sorry about that. One moment, please. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. Continuing on, today's session is being recorded. Presentation slides and recording will be available online at sfethics.org within 48 hours. Attendee microphones will be automatically muted during presentation. Attendee video is disabled during the entire session. During the Q&A segment, attendees joining on computer or laptop who wish to ask a question should raise hand by selecting the hand icon and wait for the host to call your name and unmute your mic. If joining by telephone, dial *3 to raise hand. Questions may also be submitted via email to ethics.commission@sfgov.org. Questions submitted by email should receive a response within 3 business days. I will now turn it over to Pat Peterson, Engagement and Compliance Officer, who will lead today's session.
Thank you, Rachel. One moment, please. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us on such short notice. This is the first filer information session for 2021, and it's directed solely for our electronic filers. That would be our elected officials, department heads, board members, and commissioners.
Hi, Pat, one moment. I'm sorry, Pat, don't mean to interrupt. Swap your screens. There you go, perfect.
The challenge is that the notes have moved. One moment, please. We'll proceed anyway. Thank you. So today's agenda is going to cover 4 areas. We're going to talk generally about the Statement of Economic Interest and why it's filed. We're going to go over some specifics about the Form 700. It's going to look a little different. It's going to look like the form that's finished after you e-file, but we're going to talk through the elements so that as you go through the e-filing screens, you'll understand conceptually what's being reported. We're also going to talk about additional filing requirements just for city officials. These apply only to you. We do have employees who file Form 700s. They, for the most part, are not subject to the additional filing requirements for city officials that we're going to be going over today. And then finally, we're going to go over some filer support and resources that will be available online at the Ethics Commission's website, at the FPPC, and they'll also be in this presentation, which will be available online. And all of the links to the things that we're talking about today will be right there. Those links will help you navigate our website, the Ethics Commission's filing system, NetFile, and it'll help you navigate the FPPC site. All right, here we go. First up, the overview of the Statement of Economic Interests. So the Statement of Economic Interest, Form 700, and this may be old hat for some of you and brand new for others. The Statement of Economic Interest is required to be filed by public officials and designated employees on paper throughout California each spring. That's what we're really talking about today, the deadline coming up on April 1st. It's also due at two other times. One, when you first join us, and it's due within 30 days. And it's also due when you leave, also due within 30 days. Now let's talk about why we file it. We file it because it provides necessary information to the public about those of us who file our financial interests. And it makes sure that for the public that we are making decisions that are in the best interest of the public and doesn't benefit us individually, financially. The other reason that it's really good is that it supports transparency and accountability. Every time we open the Form 700, every time we review what we have to file, it reminds us of the conflicts of interest related to our positions and what we have to be aware of as we file. It keeps us from making or participating in governmental decisions that are deemed conflicts of interest. And it's just that, it's that little voice in our ear. Remember what we're doing and why we are doing it and what the public expects of us. All right. Moving on. So just generally, because you may hear discussions around the Form 700 every year about who files. Do I file electronically? Do I file on paper? We have two separate groups. Currently, filing electronically, we have elected officials, department heads, board members, and commissioners. Those of you who are attending our training today, and our training is geared toward your needs. The second group that we have doesn't apply to you. These are designated filers. They file on paper, and they file at the department. If you hear questions about, I have my Form 700, I'm ready to send it by mail this year to my department, that doesn't apply to you. As an elected official, department head, board member, or commissioner, you have to e-file. No exceptions. Information about filing is on the links on each of the screens that you'll see, dark blue, white font. It'll appear on the screens as we go along. So just to go over again, the Form 700 filing requirements. In red, we're actually here to focus on the annual filing due April 1st, 2021. Again, we do have an assuming office filing and a leaving office filing. It's filed within 30 days. Those of you who have joined us recently, your assuming office was filed within 30 days of your appointment, your assuming office. That is the day that you were sworn in, and that was a 12-month look back. Then, every full year, as well as the catch-up for the portion of the year if you just joined us, you file an annual. It's due every April 1st, and it's for the prior calendar year. So this year, the filing due on April 1st is for all of your disclosable assets held in 2020. And the last filing that you have to file is a leaving office, Form 700. It's due within 30 days. And it is also a 12-month look back, or it is reporting everything that up to the last annual that you reported. Now, one of the challenging things filing on paper is that you have to figure out which box to check. But when you e-file, because you are in constant contact with your filing liaison and the Ethics Commission, NetFile is going to set that up for you. Please don't change the dates, because we have set it up for you so that your filing will be correct. Any questions, reach out to the Ethics Commission at our main mailbox. Now, there is an exception, and I just want to bring this to your attention. If you assume office in the last quarter of the prior year, up until the date that the filing is due in the current year, you don't file in the current year. And the reason for that is that an assuming office Form 700 is a 12-month look back. The annual, due April 1st, reports all of 2020. It would be essentially redundant. So therefore, you don't have to file that annual first year that you arrive if you arrived pretty close to the filing period, but you will have to catch up the next year. So if you assumed office in late 2020 or early in 2021, while you're assuming office, you don't file anything until 2022. That's when you'll hear from us. All right. So for filing electronically, again, elected officials, department heads, board members, and commissioners, there are links on the Ethics Commission website available in the link in the lower right-hand corner in blue, where you log into the NetFile e-filing system and you complete and you submit the form. You don't have to print it out. You don't have to sign it. You don't have to send it to us. Do it online. We'll see when it's done. Your signature will be electronically captured and you'll be able to look up your filing anytime. It's also going to be available to the public right away. This is just an FYI. Again, you may hear that someone's filling it out on paper and they're ready to hand it in. It's not for you. It's only for designated employees, those employees in the city who are working, filing on paper. They will submit the Form 700 on paper at the department. They get to do electronic filing soon. You get to do it now. A reminder, please, about access to filed forms. The Form 700 statements that are filed electronically, they can be looked up online. Anybody who looks them up online is going to see it redacted, and it's not going to be that big black box that you're used to seeing in Adobe. It's just going to have an omitted field. When we set up your accounts, we may be in contact with you saying, this looks like a residential address. Is it? The reason we do that is because the Form 700 is available unredacted if somebody asks our office for it. We don't want them to see your home address. That's not their business. The Form 700 requires a government email address. If you don't have one, use a business address, but please don't use a personal address. It's public information. Any questions? Reach out and ask us, please. Just a quick word about late filing and enforcement. Please don't ask us if you can have a few more days to file. Under state law, there's no provision in the law to extend the Form 700 filing dates. The April 1 deadline for the annual Form 700 this year is a hard deadline. Late filings, any late filing, and this is if you hold multiple positions, every single filing that's due for every position carries a late fee of $10 per day up to $100 for each required filing. Non-filers, this is a biggie. Non-filers may be subject to disciplinary and/or enforcement actions with potential fines of up to $5,000 per violation. It's significant. Please file. We'll go over later in this presentation about other things that you have to do if you don't file. The upshot is you won't be able to participate in any matters agendized before your board or commission until you file. Please file, and on time. This is a little more detail about what I was just going over about the potential discipline. Notification is going to come within 30 days from the Ethics Commission, where we expect you to respond. And the results, in addition to disciplinary action by the appointing authority for your position, it can include removal from office under the San Francisco Campaign and Governmental Conduct Code. Until you file, if you have something due and you didn't file it by the deadline, until you file, require disqualification, again, under the law. If you are disqualified, your board or commission is required to make a public announcement at each meeting saying that you are disqualified. You will have to leave the room. You cannot even participate or listen to the conversation. Now, the good news is that you are reinstated under the law. You are automatically able to go back and participate as soon as you file. because the electronic filing is visible. Anybody can see it. Hopefully you don't have questions about this because you will be filing on time, but if you do, reach out to us. Amendments. Amendments are fine. They can be filed at any time. There's no due date. And there's no financial penalty. Just get the information right. There's a couple of important things when you are amending in NetFile. You may have to make sure you're amending the original filing. And please know that when you do, the PDF that's produced is only going to be the pages that you amended. It's not going to be the original whole filing. So don't be surprised if you see just one page if you updated one page of a schedule. You can amend a prior filing anytime. They're going to be on your dashboard. You just click on the one for the year that you want to amend, make the change. Again, we're here if you have questions. All right, now we're going to jump into what we're doing, the Form 700 and its schedules. So before we touch the form, we're going to talk about something that I really, really want you to be aware of, and that is your disclosure category. A disclosure category under the law is a limit that's been placed on what you have to disclose by your department. For example, members of the Commission of the Asian Art Museum only have to disclose their financial interests in things related to Asian art. Any other type of art, any other type of business interest, they don't have to report it. It's important for you to know whether or not there are any specifics about what you have to report or not. This is a list of known departments under the San Francisco Campaign and Governmental Conduct Code that have specific limited disclosure requirements. If you see your name, the name of your board or commission on this list, or if you just want to check on and confirm what you have to file, there are links in this presentation, information on our website, and answers from us if you reach out about what you have to file. But please, it really, really matters. Now, how is the disclosure category set and who has to file? Well, as commissioners and board members, you have to file. But just for your general information, the San Francisco Campaign and Governmental Conduct Code that we're going to be going over with images and discussion today is reviewed every 2 years. It's also updated as we go, but the big one where it's contact with the departments, our attorneys are on top of it, happens every 2 years. It's conducted by the Clerk of the Board of Supervisors, our office, the Ethics Commission, and again, the City Attorney's Office. It's reviewed because it goes through under ordinance by the Board of Supervisors, and the current amendment becomes operative on the 21st of this year. Now, there are some changes to a couple of departments about whether or not you have to file a Form 700, not Form 700, Ethics and Sunshine. It's only 2 departments. If you have questions about whether you'll have to file, reach out to us. We'll help you. If you're feeling like a researcher, you can actually find your own disclosure category. The link is on our website and it's on this presentation. So you click on the code and you find your department. In this case, the example is us, the Ethics Commission. Once you click on the Ethics Commission, it opens up to a discussion about what you have to file. So on the left-hand side, you'll see the specifics about the Ethics Commission. We happen to file all at Disclosure Category 1. The Commission members file electronically, everybody under that, and our Executive Director files electronically because she's our department head. Everybody else files on paper. But this tells us what we have to disclose. On the right-hand side is a discussion of Disclosure Category 1, because you'll notice that the only thing called out under Ethics Commission is the limit, Disclosure Category 2. So your question might be, well, what about Disclosure Category 1? Well, that's also defined in the code. under section 3.1-107. And it essentially says that if there's a blank on the form and you have something to report, disclose it. General reminders, we've gone over this a bit, but just to reiterate, never hurts. The reporting period for the Form 700 that you'll be filing electronically by April 1st is for 2020, January 1 through December 31, 2020. The filer position and disclosure category just tells you what you have to report. And just a quick reminder, because it's worth remembering, your reportable financial interests also include not just your own, but also those of your spouse or partner and your dependent children. So now we're going to talk briefly about the actual filing and the schedules. So the cover sheet, this image here, is what will be produced once you complete your electronic filing. Now, electronically, it looks like fields and questions and fields with a red asterisk that you have to fill out, can't leave them blank. Once it's all done and you're asked to review a draft, the draft that you're going to see is going to look just like a paper Form 700, and it's going to look like what you see on the screen here. Now, please, again, information that appears on this cover sheet has already been set up by the Ethics Commission. That's that reminder. If you want to change anything, if you want to change your address, your email address, please do it through the Ethics Commission or your departmental filing liaison. We want whatever is going to be listed on your Form 700 to match your account. Let us make the changes for you. For the section that's in red that says you have to fill this out, which schedules are you completing? The electronic system, NetFile, is automatically going to fill in that section because it's going to know what schedules you completed. And once you sign the form electronically, once you hit that submit button, we'll receive it. It'll be available to the public, and it'll be on your own portal so that you can look it up anytime. All right, just this is an overview of the schedules, and then we'll go through each one just briefly. So there are schedules A through E. There's two schedules related to investments. One is for stocks, bonds, and other interests where your ownership is greater than 10% in the entity. And the other one is those same items, stocks, bonds, and other investments, where you own less than 10%. Schedule B is to list your interest in real property. Please don't list your domicile. You don't have to list your home. It tells you this in the instructions. The instructions are available in NetFile in a pull-down menu, and it's available as a PDF, also available right on NetFile. It'll take you straight to the filing and tell you what you have to file. Also, at the end of this presentation, you'll be able to find information about the FPPC and where you can find even more information about what has to be reported. Section C is your income, loans, and business positions. Schedule D is to report gifts. Schedule E is gifts of travel not related to work. It includes advances and reimbursements. So just briefly, Schedule A1 reminders. A1 is for reporting where you own more than 10% of the entity. You're going to be reporting investments worth over $2,000 or more, any stocks or bonds that you choose. You know, if you call up your broker and say, buy me 1,000 shares of something, report that stock. If it's part of a mutual fund where you're not choosing, but you're giving an investment advisor an amount to invest, you don't have to report those individual stocks. Schedule A2, reporting investments and income where you own less than 10%. Be sure to indicate a business that you own. Report any client that was a source of income of more than $10,000. If you have a trust fund, you may have to pick out what you have to report. Make sure that it is in your disclosure requirement as a requirement to report. Any questions, we can help you tease out what has to be disclosed. Moving on to Schedule B, interest in real property. You're going to report an interest worth $2,000 or more in real property owned within the city. Again, don't report your home. Property within the city includes any property within 2 miles of a property owned by the city. So that includes the San Francisco Airport, portions of Treasure Island, portions of the Hetch Hetchy Reservoir. There are sections not within the city and county of San Francisco's borders where you may own property and will therefore have to report if you own it. Again, we can help you. Report rental income from property owned within the city. And for example, if you have a personal home but you rent out a portion, an ADU or a basement or an attic, you will have to report that rental income, even though it's within your personal home, because it's rental income. Your tenants' names, they are going to have to be reported. And your tenants' names are not redacted, just heads up. If you have a personal mortgage, don't report it. If you obtain the mortgage and the rates are available to the general public, it's not something that you have to report. If you got a sweetheart deal on a loan and it's not available to members of the public, you would have to report that. Schedule C, income, loans, and business positions. You're going to have to report a source of income of $500 or more. Now, if you're working for the government and you're receiving a government salary, you don't have to report it. You do have to report income from businesses and nonprofits. You also have to report income from the sale of property. That's a home or car. It can be a bicycle if it's over $500. The source of income consideration, if the entity, so if you sell the property and the entity who bought it is within the city and county of San Francisco, that's when you report the income. And be cautious. Please don't double report business ownership as employment. You'll be reporting your business ownership on the schedules above. The information about filing instructions is available online and in the filing guide. It'll help you avoid double reporting. You'll also want to report gifts. You'll want to report an individual gift with a cumulative value of $50 or more. The gift limit for what you're reporting for last year was $500 from a single source. So again, it's cumulative. Just something to think about. The income, the gift limit for this year is $520, and it's going to stay this way for 2 years. There are some common exceptions to gifts. And again, we can provide guidance, but generally, gifts from a family member, you don't have to report. Informational material, for example, if you go to a conference and you receive admission and other people receive admission and everybody receives a swag bag and it has information and books, you generally don't have to report that. In the blue box, there is a link to the gifts and travel pamphlet provided by the FEPC. Look it up. It has a lot of detail, much more than this brief introduction that we're providing. Schedule E, you're going to be reporting income of gifts of travel, advances, and reimbursements. Now, you don't have to report gifts from a family member, and you don't have to report travel paid for by your employer, by the city, to carry out your duties. Now, jot down your general questions. We will have Q&A at the end. Again, keep the questions general. This is a recorded session. We want, if you have specific questions about your factual situation, reach out to us at the main mailbox at the Ethics Commission, ethics.commission@sfgov.org, and we'll set up an appointment to help you with your specifics. Any general questions that you have today are great. You help other people learn, and we have our Deputy City Attorney here online with us who will be able to assist with your questions. Hold those questions until the end. Let's talk about additional filing requirements just for you as city officials and people who are e-filing with us. Let's talk about behested payments. So elected officials, commissioners, and board members are and department heads are subject to behested payments reporting. So what's a behested payment? It's a payment that a private individual or an entity makes at the behest of a government official, that's you, for legislative, governmental, or charitable purposes. Now, these payments are not for your personal or campaign purposes. Now, if you ask or you otherwise ask in any way other than something big like a public appeal or a third party, such as a nonprofit, you may be required to file more a type of behested payment form. And there are dollar limits, and the information is available on our website. Some of it's on our screen that we'll go over in a moment. Now, elected officials are subject to both state and local behested payment requirements. We have a great fact sheet on our website that talks about the different types of reporting that has to be done by elected officials, as well as separately board members, commissioners, and most recently, as of last fall, department heads. So again, elected officials are subject to both state and local behested payment requirements. Members of boards and commissions and departments are subject to local requirements. Now, for more information, click on the links on this screen. It'll take you to our fact sheet. It'll take you to information about the laws that govern your requirements. And of course, you can contact us with questions. The other thing that's really important for you to know as an e-filer is that as a board member or commissioner, any member of a city board or commission who has a conflict of interest, you're going to have to recuse yourself from a proceeding before your board or agenda prior to the consideration of the matter. And you'll have to publicly identify the circumstances that you're recusing yourself, and you have to leave the room. Now, reasons that you would have to leave are if you have a type of relationship to the matter coming before the board. The information is available online, and you'll have to file the form available online with the Ethics Commission for every recusal with a copy of the meeting agenda, and you have to do it within 15 days of the date of the meeting where you had to remove yourself. Again, for more details, you can look at the law, the San Francisco Campaign and Governmental Conduct Code, or the compliance information on the Ethics Commission's website. Just going over briefly about gift rules. Again, there's an annual gift limit for last year, $500 aggregate for the Form 700 reporting period of last year. That number is going to increase to $520 for this year and next. There's also a restricted gift source rule of it's a $25 limit from any one event up to 4 times a year. And there are also things to consider for gifts from subordinates, which are generally prohibited. Now, we want to remind you that some departments have something called a Statement of Incompatible Activities. It's on our website under the Laws section, and it may be even stricter than what's required for gift limits. Some departments will say no gifts at all. You have to check your Statement of Incompatible Activities for your department to make sure you understand what you can accept. Now, notwithstanding the rules, generally, it's always a bad idea to accept gifts for an entity doing business with your department. So just to avoid issues, maybe avoid those gifts. Lastly, there's something called conflict of interest rules regarding gifts, and you can find that information on our website under conflict of interest rules. There's a really good guide put out by the City Attorney's Office called the Good Government Guide. It's comprehensive, it's in English, it cites the law, it puts it in an understandable format. It's a wonderful document and it's a searchable PDF. You just Control F to search and you type in a phrase and it takes you right to the information. It's a wonderful resource. And lastly, again, please do check your department statement of incompatible activities, just to see if there's something a little more restrictive than what we're talking about today. Lastly, and we're closing out here, filer support and resources. So for filer assistance, talk to your filing liaison in your department. They are a wealth of information. They understand deadlines and where to find resources and how to look up a past filing for you and to help you navigate whether or not something needs to be filed because it's still in draft. Next, reach out to us. Make an appointment. Ask your question in writing, please, at the Ethics Commission main mailbox at ethics.commission@sfgov.org, or you can call us. You can also reach out to the Fair Political Practices Commission. Now, we provide a telephone number here. Because of sheltering in place, they are going to suggest that you send your communication in writing. It's always good. You'll have a record of what you ask and their answer. And then you can also ask your deputy city attorney assigned to your department. Again, we have our deputy city attorney, Andrew Shen, here with us today for you to ask questions of in just a moment. For online resources, there's a lot of online resources. Come to the Ethics Commission's website at sfethics.org and go to the Fair Political Practices Commission's general website for the Form 700. This is just so you're not surprised when you log on to the Ethics Commission's website. There's a lot of information. This is just on the Form 700. These pages are updated regularly. In fact, in 48 hours, this presentation as well as the video is going to be available on YouTube in 48 hours. That link is going to be right where you signed up and joined this meeting. It's going to be well, actually, just a little bit further down here, but it's going to be under the section for information sessions. But where you signed up, that's where you'll find the trainings. All right, we are ready for Q&A. This slide, and we're going to leave this up here, is something for you to understand how to let us know that you have a question. Follow these instructions for raising your hand so that we know if you have a question, and you'll see the participants list so that you'll know where you are in the queue. Please lower your hand when you have finished asking your question. If you're calling in, there's instructions at the bottom where you raise your hand by using the keyboard. Dial 3, it's a toggle. If you do call in, please wait for one of us to say your line has been unmuted. That gives you the go-ahead and ask your question. All right.
Okay, Pat, it's Ronald here. We do have a couple of questions. First up is going to be Teresa Imperial. Teresa, I'm going to unmute you.
Thank you. I have a question regarding the behested payments. If you are a head of a nonprofit, is that also means that the donors of your nonprofit also need to be have separate filing?
I'm sorry, whether the members of the nonprofit?
Yes, I was kind of confused regarding what in regards of donors and recipients. Is that only who are going to be the donors and recipients?
I'm thinking, Andrew, we would want to understand more the nature.
Mhm.
I think we need more facts there.
Yeah, hi. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Andrew Shen, Deputy City Attorney. So Commissioner Imperial, to answer your question. So even if you are fundraising as an executive director for your own organization, it is possible that any fundraising solicitations may be subject to passive payment reporting. We can certainly talk to you offline about the specific circumstances of your fundraising, but a couple things to keep in mind. Is that passive payment reporting under local laws is only required if the source of those payments is someone essentially with business before your commission. That's sort of a lead time and sort of a tail in terms of when they would make any appearance before your commission. Secondly, something that we can certainly discuss more in detail offline is that there are certain exceptions that apply to solicitations as well. For example, if it's a very broad solicitation, such as something posted on social media like Facebook, that may not trigger passive payment reporting. But the Ethics Commission staff and I can certainly work with you offline to speak to you about more specific circumstances.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
Okay, Pat, we're going to be going to our next question, and this is Vanessa Aquino. Vanessa, I'm going to go ahead and move forward and unmute you.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes,
I
we
can.
Vanessa.
Okay. Hi, nice to finally see your face, Patricia. This is Vanessa Aquino.
We've been chatting.
Yes. I have a quick question, and as you may know, I've just completed the Form 700. Will I get a notification of a reminder, or do I need to write that down now so I can put it down on my calendar?
You mean for April 1 of next year?
Oh, it's due in April 1. I'm sorry, I tuned in a little late because I was having to download this program. So, but yeah, I guess for the 700, it's due April 1st. So I just completed mine, so I'm ahead of the game. Okay, so I can, how early can I, if I did it in January, February, I can do that again next year. And what is the actual window?
The window, so the e-filing form will be available January 1. Sometimes it's available as early as December 27,
Okay.
but January 1, you can hang your hat on that one.
Okay. Okay. Great. That was all. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Vanessa. Okay, we are waiting to see if there's any other questions. Once again, for anyone who's joining us via telephone, if you would like to raise your hand, you simply do that by dialing *3.
A reminder that I forgot to note for the vast majority of you is that you also have an ethics and sunshine training requirement that's due every year. It's going to be on the exact same place as you find your Form 700. In fact, when you log into NetFile, there's going to be a table that says e-filings to complete. It's going to have your Form 700 on one row, and it's going to have your ethics and sunshine training on the next row. When you open that filing, you can start it and stop it anytime. It does take about 2 hours to get through, but it's really, really important that you get all the way through step 7 to make sure that it's submitted. It's pretty easy to leave it in draft, in which case it won't be filed, in which case you'll hear from us. So make sure you get all the way through step 7 and get a verification on the screen that says your filing's to complete.
Okay, Pat, looks like we have no further questions at this time.
Well, everybody, you know where to reach us. Please don't be late. Please reach out to us with questions, with specifics. Please do it in email so that we can talk with you one-on-one. Thank you so much. check our website in 48 hours if you'd like to watch this video again or get a copy of the presentation with the necessary links. And until then, be well, be safe. Thank you, everybody. Bye.